Fellas, while I'm waiting here for everybody to get situated and pack in the last little bit before we hit the cabin, figured I'd get y'all an updaters on this vehicle. This is Mama's daily. My wife takes the kids to school, to church, to choir, to Sunday school, everywhere. This is our daily. This is our family hauler. And you know, I gotta say, I purchased this thing to check off for the family hauler events. I'm not much of a school bus kind of guy, but I purchased a Yukon. I hated it. I hated the seats. I couldn't stand the seats in the Yukon, so I had to go out and get a Platinum. And it was not. I didn't notice anything but better seats. Right? It's a fancier rig. Didn't care much for it, but it was the difference between me avoiding to drive the family hauler to, hey, this isn't bad. So about a day into owning this Escalade, I absolutely love this thing. Two things that stood out to me. First thing is how cozy it is. When you're going down the road, you're not really feeling like you're in a school bus. It feels more of a cozy rig. Snug, cozy, fairly well-handling rig. So stood out to me as well. The Yukon was bought brand new, so was this thing. So it's an apples to apples comparison. And the Yukon was tail happy. This one, they say it has the same magnetic ride. Save that BS for another time, man. That's just a bunch of nonsense. They're completely two different systems. They have the same idea, but they're completely two different systems. The Yukon back end is wobbly all over the freeway, and the Escalade stays true. So don't even talk about it. I'm a guy that owned both, and I'm the guy to tell you, first thing when I hit the road with the Yukon, I'm like, dang, this thing's easy to, just put it on its side because it's so tail happy. This thing is solid and true. I was going through the pass on the first day of ownership. 4th of July pass. The boys at Idaho, northern Idaho knows where that's at. I mean, I was going in those bends pretty quickly, and I was impressed, guys. Second thing that really stood out was the gas mileage. Learned something new today. Somehow my lifetime trip 2 got reset today, which I guess you're going to have to take my word for it. Last time I looked at that thing, it was 17.4 miles to the gallon for the life of this vehicle. Keep in mind, this vehicle gets used for everything every day in town, and then obviously it's the family hauler. Anytime we get a chance, we'll jump in my pickup, whatever the daily pickup at the time is. But when we hit the road, and I mean, like right now, I think we're like three and a half hours out of town, we definitely grab the school bus. I'll underline a few things. Yeah, everyone's situated in there, but I'll underline a few things and show you what really saved me. This thing being black, I love the black color, but I mean, I still wear, when I'm on vacation, I still wear boots, some caliber of boot, right? I was kind of concerned to get it all scratched up. As you could tell, she's nice and clean, right? We take care of her. But the kids, despite all my efforts, the kids are gonna beat up the rocker panel pretty hard. Right, Benny? He's shy. You could tell it's been scarred up. I mean, things in 18, but I bought it brand new in 19, so it was behind schedule there, but absolutely loved it. But what I'm trying to say, 19, and now we're in 23. So I mean, we're pulling up to 4-year mark, 4 years ownership, and this is all we got so far. I'll take it. Probably in the summertime when my 10 guy slows down, I'll tell him to throw another layer or pull this off and put another one. But this is well worth the money. They call it PPF film, but I just call it clear bra. Some people say these Escalades aren't big enough or whatever. Guys, we got 4 kids, and me and my wife, plenty of space, just enough, We're going out for the weekend and a little bit, so there's plenty of room. We've done cross-country trips. This is a perfect size. There's a reason why these things, I call the Suburban, Yukon, and Escalade. I'll talk to them as one as far as practicality goes. It's the fancy things that stand out. I tell all my family, if you're going to buy an Escalade, make sure you get a Platinum. I bought the Platinum because of the adjustable seats, but there's a lot more. There's little neat features and little things to it. Now, the bad side of this thing, what have I dealt with? Early in its life, the front passenger strut got changed out because it started having a clucking noise. Something was loose up top, I think the top strut tower. A little bit later, we had the passenger side step and passenger side tower get replaced as well, about 30,000 miles. I didn't care much when I first bought this vehicle. Didn't care much about the steps, but now that I've owned numerous trucks with power steps, it really stood out to me when this thing isn't, you know, where I'm used to it. It's a must-have feature now that I'm used to. You know, both of my 19 and 21 diesels had the power steps. Absolutely loved them. You know, obviously we've had this from 19, got used to it. Very functional. It is going to be costly down the road. I know it's going to, I don't know how long they'll last, but you can tell they're getting a little louder. They're not sticking, so thank God for that. I service them to the best of my abilities. If you guys got any ideas in the comment section, let me know. Guys, one thing that really stood out to me is the rear diff. This rear diff was replaced. Well, no, it was actually rebuilt. It wasn't replaced. Dead smack of COVID, it was replaced. I mean, because they're rebuilt because they couldn't get replacement as a whole. All the bearings, and it wasn't grenaded, but it was making noise. And being mechanically inclined, I know it wasn't far from grenading. And when the guys pulled it apart, they're like, holy smokes, that thing had a lot of shavings in it. More or less, that's what stood out to me. Now, I don't know what GM's thinking about this next one. I've struggled with this wheel for 2 times. So the original bearing went out at 30,000 miles, give or take. Well, 34, I think. But anyways, give or take 30,000 miles. I just put another bearing on there. So the original bearing went out at 30. The replacement bearing went out at 62. So I just put in a fleet bearing. I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. If this fleet bearing doesn't do it, I'll put on the... I'll go and buy a Timken. I'll do what I believe in. Being GM, I'm very much kind of guy that I'll tell you to stick to AC Delco products. But something about their bearings is just a pile of junk. So I went ahead and... you guys know, that's all I run. Fleet product from Napa when it comes to brake system on all my work trucks. So... they won't sell you the part. So when I went in there, I told them what I need. I wanted the fleet. They're like, we don't have a part like that. I'm like, all right, let's try this over. I'm driving a 2018 Yukon XL Denali. Same engine, same way. Get the theory there. I need a bearing, and I want the fleet. Yeah, we got one on right here on the shelf, sir. It got a weird look, but it's like, bro, come on. Put one and one together. You know, and it was an older gentleman. And I came back, when he came back, kind of asked him if he knew that they're the same platform and whatnot. He's like, yeah, they're wonderful trucks, but he wasn't clicking what I was trying to hint him, but forget it. If you want some upgraded parts, Suburbans, Yukons get more used in the government application, so certain stores will cross over. I'm guessing they should be crossing over to the Escalades, but they're not exactly same suspension. I tell them Denali because of the 6.2 engine, 8-speed transmission. You could tell them 19 Denali. I know for a fact it has a 10-speed. I'm not sure if the 18 or the 19 was the crossover and the Yukons on the 10-speed. About the tranny, absolutely love this tranny, guys. I couldn't be happier with this tranny. Guys told me I'm going to have issues with it. I know heavy-duty trucks had issues with it. Oh, here. I want to show you the mileage. This thing has 62, 174. I literally swapped out that bearing 150 miles ago. This bearing I'm talking about. So this tranny, I serviced the tranny at 34,000 miles. I was a little concerned for the lubricants. I just wanted to get a feel for this because my pickup trucks, I feel comfortable with them. But these things, not so much. If you listen to it, runs really well. It has this like slight miss, stutter, whatever you want to call it. I've been told over and over that it's because they idle so lean. They must have known soccer moms are gonna idle the piss out of these things. Another thing is I'm not sponsored by these guys. One late night I couldn't sleep. I was kind of bothered because I opened up the throttle on one of my services probably about a year and a half ago. And I saw that oil pooling in there and I was like, what the heck? So I did my research. This company does a fantastic job because the suction port of it's nice and oily. I get oil, quite a bit of oil, but the other side is nice and dry. So that's hard evidence that this thing does its trick. One of these days I'll get to it and I'll buy the bigger one because at mid-cycle, at about 3,000 miles, I have to change out this thing, or dump out from my research that I've personally conducted with this thing because I kept checking it the first few. Oil change every 1,000 miles, I'll pull it off. There would be a little bit, but 3,000 is a good number. You'll be about half, maybe 2/3 full in there, and just dump it out. And I usually give or take about 5,000 miles on my oil change. You know, if it drags out to 6, no big deal. I run Schaefer's. Schaefer's Amsoils are my 2 top picks. I run a lot of Schaefer's products, so I just keep using it. I'm not pushing or pulling towards it. I'm just saying, shapers and AMSOIL is good stuff. Those are my two choices. My coolant's been low. That's the maximum line, that's the minimum line. We're leaning back a little bit, so it looks worse. Backside, you can tell, has a little bit more coolant. But it's just been like that from day one. I don't want to mix coolant in there. So I went ahead and just keeping an eye on it. It's not really going anywhere. So, what else can I tell you? I noticed on this last service, there's that tranny, or that coolant line, starting to sweat. And you gotta watch those, because they're just, these kind of hoses, the bottom one's the one that's sweating, but this one you can see better. It's pretty much the same idea there. These crimping the hoses, they're very sketchy. It doesn't take much for that thing to blow off. So I'm gonna go in and order me a new hose. It's not dripping, it's just sweating, but it's a good precaution because it can cost you your tranny. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the tranny lines, yeah. Whatever it is, I'll get that worked out. But yeah, guys. Engine phenomenal, trannies phenomenal. Oh, I started talking about services and never finished it. That's very important, guys. Front end, transfer case, transmission, and the rear end. Well, the rear end's kind of irrelevant at this point because it was swapped out, all this stuff. So the front end fluid at 34,000 miles was good as new. Waste of time. The transfer case was bad. Transfer case at 34,000 miles was bad. Tranny was a waste of time and money. It's a pain to get in there. It's a pain to get it all right, but it was a waste of time and money. Excuse me. Still under the weather a bit, guys. And the rear end, I'll just stick to my 60,000 mile intervals from now on. So what I am trying to tell you here is I would do 60,000 mile intervals on this vehicle. From what I've gathered, when they break in, clearly the transfer case had the most breaking in to do, according to my research on my vehicle. And keep in mind, I don't tow with this thing. I just haul my booty, my family around, and we go from there, right? So 60,000 miles is a good number to just swap out all your fluids. If you got time, you should probably do it earlier for peace of mind. But the second time around, I'd just stick to 60,000 miles. Only thing I haven't put a finger on is those spark plugs. You know, it has 62. I literally pulled those spark plugs a week ago. Just, I'm uncomfortable. They're saying 100,000. They look perfectly fine at 62. I've committed to 75. Once she starts coming up to 75, I'll do the plugs. Let me know on the oil pump or the water pump. I'm thinking about $150 on the water pump and maybe a little bit cooler thermostat. As always, boys, may the Lord bless you. May you all mighty fine day, and this is probably the next review on this vehicle is going to be at about 100,000 miles. So if you got any questions, fire away, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you guys, as always. God bless you. Bye.